discussed already. But how do you then get this out to everybody? And how can you do that in a deliberate way? In the same way that we have financial accounting embedded in every unit. That didn't used to be, now it is. So we created an infrastructure in human services around that. And so the questions that we ask are going to come from this through this implementation lens. So bear with me, and I will avoid jargon, hopefully. But if I say things and you say, well, what the heck does that mean? You know, like yesterday we were talking about FFA, which in western Kansas, where I grew up, was Future Farmers of America. So what the heck are they talking about FFA, and what does that have to do with this?
Well,
that had me stumped for a little while. But if you find yourself in that position, say, what are you talking about?
We utilize our farmers differently here.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You say farming, and we do it differently.
Oh yeah. As everything is done differently in the country of California. But for starters, want to just get a feel for the kinds of and we need to find a word, and I'll use intervention. But there might be evidence-based programs, practices. There might be evidence-informed approaches that you're using. It might be something that you found in one of your units that worked really well, and you want to do more of that. So you have your own homegrown innovation. But we'll call all of those things just for sake of simplicity interventions here for a while. So, for what are some of the interventions that you have been trying now for the last couple of years? So, really looking here for the things that you have some experience with. You have enough to experience to say, well, early on we thought it was this, but then 6 months into it we thought it was that, and now 2 years into it we've gone down this and that. But here are the things we're finding that are working for us. So it's that kind of intervention is what we would really like to focus on. So what are some of the candidates here in this county?
One of the things that I was talking about earlier was the foster care behavioral health expansion, which we now call Children and Family Services. We started it back in 2009, and it was to house mental health clinicians, mental health case managers, foster care nurses, and foster care social workers in the same proximity, working together on the same cases in order to be able to improve stability in placement and access to services.
All right.
So conceptually, we started it.
Well, that's enough.
Okay.
I just need now just some candidates for titles, and then you can kind of decide. Let's focus on and we need to settle on one or two that we will then carry on a conversation for the rest of it. But that sounds like a good candidate. 2009. Couple of years into it, you already clearly have some definition to it. So,
and then related to that would be differential response.
Differential response.
Our alternate way of responding to reports of suspected child abuse and neglect, and it also has to do with the integration of public health and mental health into the way child welfare responds. So it could even be considered. We could even use integrated approach to cases as an overarching, or maybe that's not specific enough, because those would both fall under that if we used integration.
So those will be tied together
We've been
in
doing
some
differential response since
97, maybe.
Yeah,
1997.
No, 2007.
Oh, 2007.
I'm also thinking Humboldt was one of the counties involved in the California Permanency for Youth project.
Permanency for Youth?
Which was pretty much back end, youth that had been in long-term foster care. Yeah. Carolyn was one of the leaders on that. What we've done in the last year and a half is move that concept to the front end so that an attempt is made to maintain connections so that they're not lost.
To begin with.
To begin with. It was like, okay, it was kind of felt like a special project back here. How can we take that work and put it up here so it's there throughout the life of the case? And Humboldt actually moved before there was legislation requiring it.
Now
Ahead of
it's
the curve.
legislation that talks about family
Statutory
engagement.
requirement, yeah.
All right, so we have
It just made sense.
permanency for youth. Other candidates from others?
I don't know if it would be helpful, I don't know that this would be a candidate. We have a huge investment in evidence-based practice. You know, for example, on our prevention scale, we have incredible years, parenting classes that go out to the community. I know Cindy, you've been involved in that. You want to talk a little bit more about it?
It's an evidence-based practice. It's for parents of kids between the ages, originally it was between the ages of 2 and 8, and now they've expanded it up to 12. And it really teaches the parents how to parent effectively and still, keep the kids safe. It changes the child's behavior, but it's because of the way the parent actually interacts with the child. It's about a 14-week course.
Yeah.
We have facilitators that are certified by Incredible Years, and then we maintain their certification with boosters over the years, and we've been doing that since 2004.
Yeah, and we, last summer, was it August, we brought in a trainer and trained facilitators not only for DHHS, but for our family and community resource centers, so that the practice can expand.
Okay. So just hanging on to these four. So we have the foster care behavioral health expansion, differential response, permanency for youth project, and then Incredible Years. So out of the whole group of possible things to be doing in child welfare that might be innovations, might be interventions that you would like to try, why those four? Where did they come from? I mean, why?
They're just
How did
tip
they
of the
get?
iceberg.
Well, but how did somebody had to say, I know, let's do Incredible Years, or this differential response thing is something that we want to do here in this county. So, is there a process for kind of?
Differential response came out of the redesign that we talked about
Okay.
Tuesday in Sacramento.
All right.
That was another. The redesign had three major components. It had permanency and transitions for youth. It had standardized safety assessments. Remember that conversation about risk assessments?
Yep.
And it had differential response.
Okay, so there was something that was really kind of from the state
Yeah.
to you all. Okay, so that came to you, and foster care behavioral health expansion though sounds more like something that
Local.
Yeah.
Right,
it's
so
a
that was
local-
sort of like last steps isn't the right word, but we've had a 10-year plan on integration in Humboldt County. It was began in 1999, I believe. And part of it, but besides creating Department of Health and Human Services, was also to identify and introduce and implement practices that had outcomes, that could show outcomes that we were looking for. We knew that we needed parenting classes, but we wanted parenting classes that worked.
okay. And
So
you
there
say
was a whole-
we.
well,
Now who's the
Who
we?
was we?
Phil Crandall.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, our
It was
director,
Phil.
DHHS director.
So Phil said.
Phil
Right.
wanted us
Well,
to have
okay.
an integrated foster care and mental health and,
And we
public
brought
health.
in Bill and Todd.
Oh, you're talking about EBP?
Well, I was.
Sorry.
It was a piece of that whole sort of 10-year plan. So yeah, there was technical assistance essentially from California Institute of Mental Health, who had
You're talking about
scanned the
EBPs now.
literature.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
the
no,
EBPs.
that's fine.
And with the integrated agency, it was determined that child welfare would implement that Incredible Years piece. That's
Okay.
how we
That
got
was the
there.
first one.
Yeah, that was kind of the
Okay, because what I'm trying to get at here, just to shorten this part up a little bit, but I was trying to see, is there something? Do you have like the county